Do you remember when you used to be my boss and I would sometimes work the late shift real time support, and there always had to be one late shift supervisor? And if it wasn't you, I was always like, I don't have to wear pants now.
Yes, I
But
remember
if
that.
you were the supervisor, then I was like, damn it, I have to wear pants because you were a mean supervisor. And now I like never wear pants. Apparently, we all thought I was joking, but apparently I was just waiting.
Waiting.
Biding my time.
All right, well, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very pleased. So I had therapy this week. And I told my therapist that the 12-year-old next door had been psychologically abusing me lately.
Oh,
It's true. He's really getting in my head. It's a little bit, I talked to Trish and she's like, it's a little bit like the kid with the cabbages with James Acaster. So for Trish's birthday, which was 9 days ago, we went out to Carlos O'Kelly's with the neighbors because Trish decided she wanted to go out. She hadn't planned on it, but then she decided she wanted to, and we wanted to take the neighbors because we're very close to them. And we went to Carlos O'Kelly's because that's usually like our place. And also, even though infection rates are skyrocketing right now, Tuesday night at a Carlos O'Kelly's, nobody there. It was fun. So we go there, and that's great. While we're there, the 12-year-old hands Trish first one and then a few others balloons that he's just now blown up. They're water balloons, but he's blown them up with air.
okay.
And apparently he just did this all day, like at school and stuff too. And he asked me if I wanted one. And I, being the hilarious semi-pro comedian that I am, was like, no, I don't. That's unnatural. That's unwholesome. I don't know what your deal is here, but I don't want a water balloon full of air. That's not how that works. There's something sinister about this. And later he would like push more, and I'm like, not, stay away from me, devil. Nice try. Not going for it. Something's happening here. There's a scam. You're some sort of evil supernatural con man. I'm not going. And we built up this whole thing. And he thought it was hilarious. And it was. And then we went home. And then that night, I tucked Trish in. It's like 9:30 or something. And I'm hanging out in here. And I get a text from the 12-year-old that says, look in your mailbox. And I know what's going to be in my mailbox. It's going to be balloons. But I'm like, I don't want to get up and put on some clothes and go outside to see. So I was like, not falling for it, Satan. Good try. And then I got another text that said, do it.
Do it.
And so then I sent a text with just a bunch of weird emojis, trying to express sort of a horror on a cosmic level at the whole thing. And then the 12-year-old did not text back. I eventually went to bed and forgot about this until the morning when I went outside, and there in the mailbox is a couple of balloons. They're like, oh, yeah, balloon. Trisha's like, what? I'm like, this is the thing. And then we go out to the car, and on the hood of the car are like 3 more balloons. Mm-hmm. And amongst the other things in the driveway, I don't know where they originally positioned, window stuff, were several more balloons. Mm-hmm. And so I took pictures of all of this, and I took Trish to work and all that. When I came home, I sent the pictures to the 12-year-old, and I was like, there's more. They're everywhere, and none of them have water. What is happening? So see, I'm like, this bit can't go further. So cut to Sunday, this Sunday recently, and we have dinner with the neighbors like we always do. And I'm carrying stuff over, and I go and I open their storm door, and just a ton of balloons pour out because they were caught between the doors. And again, little tiny water balloons. And I opened the inside door to see the 12-year-old and his dad and his mom all just dying laughing about all of the balloons they got me with. So, again, psychological abuse. And I had to tell my therapist about it. She gave no useful advice. I was disappointed. I guess there are limits.
It seems like turnabout's fair play, though.
You want me to see? I thought about just show up with one water balloon, but that has water in it,
That's all it would take.
and
really.
be like, fucking checkmate. Come here for a second. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Magical Talking Hat podcast, the only podcast that actively conspires against 12-year-olds on the internet, where all the police and everything can see. That can't be true. There's got to be a lot of really dumb podcasts that do that kind of shit.
Maybe.
I'm Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 586.
I've completely lost track, so I don't know if that's accurate or not. I'm just going to assume it's not. And yet I still am going to assume so. For those of you just joining us, how'd that happen? We're a podcast. We have a hat. It is magical in that it has its own email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. Is that on the screen or is that on my monitor? That's on my monitor. You guys didn't notice any change, but it looks different. I was like, oh, then it'll be clear. I'm like, no, to them, they never saw it. Trust me, there was a thing there. Anyway, yeah, it has its own email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. And people who want to, or are forced to, or guilted into, coerced, whatever, people write into that email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com, with whatever the crap they want, really. They just email us things. A lot of it's questions, a lot of it is topics. Sometimes it's just pictures of minifigures. All sorts of things. Occasionally a manifesto. But whatever they want. And the hat magically on its own forwards the emails to William and I. And we read them on the air and talk about them until we're bored with it. And then that's it. Except most of the time we don't hardly do that. Which is good because we don't get a lot of questions. But, you know, we're still chugging through. Nobody has pulled the plug on us yet. And as long as overhead costs keep this low, there's no stopping us.
Yep.
How was your week? Did you go to Phoenix again?
No. So I'm trying to think of all the things that I've watched that I haven't talked about, because I'm, whenever I get on here, I'm just thinking about school. So like we've been watching Strange New Worlds. I don't think I've mentioned that.
Oh yeah. The new Star Trek. Yeah.
It's very Star Trek. It's more Star Trek than any of the other Star Treks they've got going right now. So if you like Star Trek, I think you'll like it.
Star Trekiest, as it were.
You have new people cast for Spock, for Uhura, and for Nurse Chapel, believe it or not.
I have heard Spock is something. I've heard Spock's pretty fit.
Okay. I mean, I think the guy playing Spock does a good job. Pretty fit? What are you talking about? People are like into him.
Attractive.
Like
he's an
good
attractive
looking.
man.
Oh.
Is what.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, also we've been watching the Obi-Wan show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is pretty good, but I think some people don't like it. Have you heard anything about it?
Some people consider Obi-Wan to be the ultimate villain of the series. So that could be Trish in particular. No, absolutely. If you go back and look, like Obi-Wan lies and leaves out all sorts of helpful things and manipulates people in just terrible ways.
Yeah, I guess so.
All over the place. He's the worst. Pretty much all the bad things that happen in Star Wars are because either Obi-Wan made them happen or Obi-Wan felt a need to not tell people very critical things that would have stopped them happening.
Hmm.
Just about
Okay.
every bit. Except
Anyway.
Jar Jar. He can't be blamed for Jar Jar.
I like it so far, but I've heard some people aren't into it, but whatever. Let's see. So
Miss Marvel? Did you start watching Miss Marvel?
no.
I'm surprised. I would have thought you jumped on that.
Gentleman Jack is back for a new
Oh, yeah.
season, so we've been watching that. Let's see what else. But yeah, I mean, there have actually been a lot of things that have started or come back that are like a once a week type of thing. I mean, I'm kind of with you on that. I almost want to wait until they're all out.
Which we generally do.
Yeah,
We have had exceptions, or if it's particularly episodic, like season 3 of Black Lady Sketch Show came out, and we just kind of watched them when they came out because it's like there's not a ton of continuity in a sketch comedy. There actually is some because of the way Black Lady Sketch Show works, but it's pretty minor. It's not, you aren't sitting around on tenterhooks wondering what's going to happen next.
Oh, so there have been things like that, but I guess I'd recommend Strange New World. I think it's not great or anything, but if you like Star Trek, I don't see why you wouldn't like it. And I think the people that are, I like the guy who plays Spock, for example, is really good, I think. And I don't know if I'd recommend the Obi-Wan thing. I like it, but I don't know what everyone else is, the thing you just said about him being a bad guy or whatever. I don't know about any of that. I just know I liked, pretty much the only thing I liked about the prequels was Obi-Wan, was Ewan McGregor's portrayal of Obi-Wan. So,
for those of you in this wheelhouse of still watching Doctor Who and not having BBC America, the most recent season that exists, which isn't that recent anymore, is now on. It just came to HBO Max.
So, oh yeah, right. Yeah, actually,
I plan to watch that.
I think we're going to watch that too. Yeah,
and that's the last Jodie Whittaker's.
How was your week?
Pretty okay. We are not watching a lot. We're watching Book of Boba Fett. We are half through. Not sure. And everybody said, "Did you like Mandalorian? If so, you'll like Book of Boba Fett." I see why they said that, and I am enjoying Book of Boba Fett quite a bit. It is enjoyable. I am saying enjoyable. You'll note I am not saying good, because it's not. Like, one of the things about Mandalorian is that it's very simple storytelling and isn't really reaching that hard, but it's like fun. But like, apparently it was reaching hard because the storytelling in Book of Boba Fett makes no fucking sense all over the place. I was prepared, and I'm still kind of confused because you had an issue that you're like, it's Boba Fett. He's a bad guy. Why are we trying to make him good? And I'm like, at the time I was like, that's weird because anti-heroes are a thing all over the place. But also, I don't think he's a good guy in this, or even they're trying to pretend he is. He's basically the smartest gangster in the show, is what it is. Like, he doesn't strike me. I mean, he's our protagonist, but he doesn't strike me as good per se.
He doesn't. There's a lot of gangster things he doesn't do, though.
Like, yeah, but just because it's not expedient, it's not there. It's not a moral thing. It's just he's like, that's dumb. Except the only moral component may be Boba Fett hates appointments. He really hates appointments. That is an ongoing thing in the show. Also, the other people in Mos Espa are really obsessed with appointments. Like, he never has one, and he always gets in. But it's weird how many different groups and people expect you to have an appointment when you come to see them in Mos Espa. It's weird. But the biggest deal, and this is part of what makes it fun but not good, So, do you know the sort of classic hero story? Trish likes to call it Dances with Wolves. I'm like, it's not a white savior story because technically the main character is Maori, so it's a Maori savior story. But you know all the stories where like a baby is left in the woods or like floated down the river and somebody finds it and raises them as their own, and then they become an important member of a group that they're not technically of, and they become the champion. I mean, Jungle Book and obviously Moses and all sorts of things. That appears to be what the story is. However, in this story, the helpless baby you find in the reeds is Boba Fett, is post Jedi Boba Fett, is an intergalactically famous bounty hunter that they raised up to being a proud warrior in their tribe. I'm like, I'm not feeling the stakes. He was already Boba Fett. He was already quite an effective fighter and warrior. And it just has so much of that vibe. Like, we will teach you our ways because and raise you as our own. But he's like older than most of them.
And he's older. He's 20 years older than he's supposed to be.
Yeah. Like there's a lot, like it just felt very weird. I was like, oh, this is the part where they see something special in him and then they teach him. And I'm like, but he's fucking Boba Fett. He had already achieved quite a successful, like his accomplishments in life at this point are fairly significant. And I get we sort of, I mean, because he fell in a Sarlacc pit, so we're sort of starting over, but kind of not at the same time. It was very odd. But for all that I find this silly and poorly put together stories, it's really entertaining. He's great. He and Ming-Na are great with each other. There's a surprising number of jokes that actually land for me. Like when they threaten to throw the guy, well, they do throw the guy in the Rancor pit. As it was happening, I'm like, didn't Luke kill the Rancor in Jedi? And then sure enough, the guy freaks out, and then Ming-Na's like, it's empty, you idiot. The two Gamorreans, the Gamorreans are Trish's favorite. She loves them. The loyal Gamorreans. And Jennifer Beals out of fucking nowhere doing a really great job. We do a lot of this, like, that person looks familiar, and it'd be like, oh yeah, they were in one, whatever. And then we looked at one of them, like, it's fucking Jennifer Beals, Miss Flashdance herself. But she is nailing it. So we're having a lot of fun with it. But yeah, it's a little bit of a mess. We have learned a lot more about banthas. Because it didn't make sense. We spend a lot of bantha time, and I'm like, banthas don't make sense on a desert planet. And so Trish looked it up, and they're not from a desert planet. They're all over the place. Banthas are on every planet, and nobody knows why. Some ancient civilization must have seeded banthas in every world. But yeah, so we're watching that. We're not watching a lot of other TV shows. We did watch a movie the other night that I really wanted to see. I've been wanting to see for a while because did you ever see a 2013 movie called Oculus? Is a horror film.
Yeah, we've seen that. Isn't
and it stars Karen Gillan.
Yeah.
And it was notable. It was sort of Karen Gillan's first thing after Doctor Who.
Yeah, it was.
And at the time, it looked very, like, it's R-rated, but it looked very PG-13 horror, just lots of jump scares when it came out. I remember when it came out, I was like, I don't think I'm interested in this. So I didn't watch it. And over the years, I've heard, no, actually, it's really kind of cool. And so finally, we watched it. Trish thinks it's bad. I think Trish might be right. The problem is it's extremely triggering for me. It deals with a lot of, there are a few tropes in horror that really fuck with me that I don't handle well. And that movie had a lot of them.
Oh, I see.
And that was disconcerting. I will say, I thought it was an original concept, and I like that. Karen Gillan's performance was amazing. Again, to the degree that I didn't feel great about it, but she did an incredible job. But yeah, a lot of the story doesn't hold together real well, so it was a little bit of a problem. So I don't think I recommend it, but it's out there on like Amazon or whatever. Do you remember? You said you saw it. You remember how you felt about it?
My recollection is that I thought it was, like you said, an original and maybe even a little bit of a clever idea, but I didn't feel like it was executed very well. I thought she did fine. I was a little sad that, like you were saying, this was kind of her first big role after Doctor Who, and I was a little disappointed that it wasn't more, fitting for what I thought she could do. But I mean, I don't think I
weirdly,
hated
it was one of her better American accents, and she frequently is cast in an American accent role. And in my experience, she's not great with them.
Oh, okay.
But this was one of her better ones, so that's a little surprising.
She is that you're right. She is often cast as an American. That's
and
weird.
like Gunpowder Milkshake, I remember it felt very stilted to me, and also strange because her mom in that had a British accent, so that seemed weird. But yeah, they seems to be doing that a lot. I've seen a few things of her lately where there's no reason for her to sound American, but she sounds American. And I mean, she's Scottish, which most people can't understand, but she's a nice BBC Scottish, so people should be able to understand her just fine.
BBC Scottish.
Back in the day, received pronunciation was referred to as BBC English. Nowadays, it's really a bad idea to like try and make everybody sound like boring English accents. So they let people have their own. And sometimes it gets real crazy. But that one to me is like the nice conformist Scottish accent. And so I just put the two ideas together and it's BBC Scottish. Not a lot else. I'm playing a lot of Final Fantasy. I'm still playing a lot of Saints Row. That game is fucking fun. I'm surprised. It reminds me of Infamous, but you have cooler powers and it's easier. And guns, and you have a lot of guns. I got a guitar case that shoots missiles. It's fun. Yeah, not too much else, I don't think. I'm waiting. Things have been kind of chaotic and crazy the last few weeks. I'm really looking forward to a June where not a lot happens. I could use that.
Well, there's already a week gone in June.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's just I don't have a lot of plans in June. I have a lot of plans in July. So here's the fun thing. You don't know Jazz particularly, right? Jazz. Sorry, forgot. One of our primary listeners goes by the name Jazz. You are not overly familiar with the genre of music known as jazz, are you?
I mean, what would be
like if I tossed out names of jazz performers, do you think it would be likely you would recognize them? I don't know why we're dancing around. Do you know who Kurt Elling is?
No.
Okay. Kurt Elling is a quite successful, quite currently prolific jazz singer.
Okay.
I have a friend who's also a listener to the show who is a big jazz head and started talking about Kurt Elling. And I said, oh yeah, my brother's friends with him. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, they went to school together or they used to do something together. And they're like, Kurt Elling, the like famous jazz singer. I'm like, yeah, my brother. And like they were freaked out enough that I'm like, maybe I'm getting confused. So I texted my brother and I'm like, I'm remembering this right. You and jazz singer Kurt Elling are friends, right? And he's like, oh yeah, we're friends. We text and talk a lot all the time. Yeah, because apparently they were in, I think it was like a community choir for like a few years together. And so they just became buds. And so I told my friend, friend's like, oh my God, we should meet him. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. So if anybody else out there are jazz heads, which doesn't mean that you're a huge fan of jazz, our listener, I assume we're all jazz heads there.
Oh yeah.
But JAZZ heads, that's just an exciting thing. This podcast that you listen to is related to somebody who's friends with Kurt Elling. So I don't know. I get off on that weird kind of star fuckery like that. I like being a couple that, like, I'm a little into the fact that my brother knows this guy and he's famous, even though I don't know this guy.
Yeah.
I do have a thing about celebrity. I try not to, because I don't believe in it for real. And some people, like, I got to meet Orrin Hatch once, and that was not enjoyable at all. But in general, like, presence to famous people is a thing that I'm victim to. That sentence fell apart at the end. I think I got bored halfway through that sentence.
Oh,
Should we read an email?
okay.
All right. You seem kind of checked out ever since I started bad mouthing Boba Fett, honestly.
No, I don't.
I'm not saying it right. I got to say Boba Fett. That's the only fun way to say it.
I'm still of the opinion that was very awkward how they rehabilitated him. But I don't think that the good things he does are just expedient. I think they don't make sense for his character.
Well, we'll see. I got more of it. So far, I haven't seen anything that seemed good. It just seemed like it's dumb to not do this.
I mean, there are some examples of that, yeah, but there are other examples like,
Maybe
no,
we'll
I mean,
get
it
to
wouldn't even matter if it was expedient. The Boba Fett would just kill all these people or whatever, whatever it
but
is.
here's
it's like,
that's okay. Now here's the thing, because I think you have a lot of Boba Fett headcanon, or possibly extended
I
universe.
mean, I
don't
think
know.
I do.
Because
yeah.
to me,
think I
if
do.
he straight up becomes a hero and like saves the galaxy, I still wouldn't find it that weird.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I assume they do it poorly, but
Well, but also
like,
you
he never struck me as like evil or anything. At worst, I mean, he's basically a Han Solo who just went for the other team, because
I
he's
guess,
just
but
Han Solo's
see-
a smuggler. This guy's a bounty hunter. I mean,
right.
he's not that weird.
But I also am not a huge fan of the whole anti-hero thing. Anyway,
Me neither. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not
And-
surprised by it. I'm actually fucking sick to death of it. But
I would
I'm
just-
not like surprised. It's just
I don't-
it is annoying. I will agree.
I just
mean-
think it would have been original. Actually, now it would be original to have a character who's just a bad person, and people like to watch this person be bad.
I'll go you one step further.
Oh no.
We don't need Boba. First of all, he died. Second of all, the love of Boba Fett doesn't make sense.
Well, not
The
to
love
me,
of Boba Fett is he had cool looking armor and it looked like he had a rocket on his backpack,
no.
which I think originally it turned out wasn't actually a rocket, but like they've retconned that shit. I'm not sure, but he had cool looking armor. That's it. And he was very ineffective at most things he did.
Yeah, well,
But everybody fucking loved him, so now we got a thing. And no offense to the guy playing him. The guy playing him is amazing. If the guy playing him was named something else and had a similar backstory, I mean, I still would be like, well, I think I'd be less, because I'd be like, he's a grown-ass man, as opposed to an intergalactically famous bounty hunter that they've raised from a baby to be one of them. I mean,
what
got
I liked
issues
about
with
all
the
the-
Tuscans too.
oh, you do?
Yeah,
See, I'm interested in that because actually that's one thing I like about the show is exploring those people and their culture and stuff. I thought that was kind of interesting.
I don't think we did it well, is the thing. It felt too much. It felt too much like we're just going to pretend they're Native Americans, right? And give them a different costume. Like,
Well, maybe
that's the thing is, too often now we have this tribe, and it is a very noble savage thing, and I'm kind of tired of that.
no, I get that.
Yeah.
But I
And
think
again, a lot of it just sort of doesn't fit together.
right. I think though there's
Star Wars.
you were saying I've got some Mandalorian and Boba Fett headcanon that you don't have. I think I also have some
Tusken Raiders, or
and Sand
Tusken,
People stuff.
Tusken,
Because-
the Sand People.
Because all of this stuff has been kind of done before and addressed before in this way. but not quite the way the show does it. I mean, I don't know. So
Well, all I knew is I just kept getting really mad at them when they wouldn't travel single file, which happened surprisingly large amount. I was like, I can, your numbers are not disguised. I can see them. There are 4 of you.
Well, maybe that was part of it. Maybe it's like, oh, Obi-Wan's racist for thinking all the Tusken Raider tribes are the same. Like they all have the same culture. the
And
same-
traveling single file to disguise your numbers. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big military strategist.
Or a tracker.
It doesn't
seem like it
sound
would
right
work.
to me. It doesn't
No.
sound like an effective strategy.
Doesn't really, does it? Especially with Bantha, for gosh sakes. They're huge.
Well, and especially with 3 dimensions. Like you have to be out there in the desert, and like anybody who sees us is going to be right that way and at ground level. It's on.
I mean, I don't know where George Lucas even got that idea. If that's something that some culture somewhere did do
I-
with animal.
also-
pack animals.
At one point, the Mos Espa Cantina, there's a dude who looks like Max Rebo, and they call him Max, and I'm like, so does Max Rebo have to tour? Because Max Rebo was from the other one, the big blue elephant looking dude who plays the cylindrical piano.
Yeah,
And I'm like, why is he here now? Did he get kicked out of the other one? Every time I saw the guys, the other guys from the, I was like, look, it's Jizz Whalers. Because that's
Yeah.
what you call somebody who performs the music that George Lucas named Jizz. That is canon.
I know.
There's a lot of Jizz Whalers in Boba Fett. There are a lot of them around. Only one Rodian, who doesn't even get a name. We call him Rodian. I'm like, that's racist. There's a lot of things in this one. There's a lot of things in Book of Boba Fett that are what I've taken to calling George Lucas racism. Sometimes Star Wars is straight up very obviously racist. Nine Numb, the Trade Federation in the prequels, and I don't care what the dude who voiced it said, Jar Jar Binks is fucking racist. I'm willing to believe you didn't think so. I understand you're black. Jar Jar Binks is fucking racist. But there's also a lot of things that are like, this feels racist, but I can't pin the race. There's a lot of stuff that with George Lucas that I'm like, I feel like if I learned what his inspiration was for this, I would feel like it was racist. There's a lot of Tusken Raiders are a good example. I'm like, he's not doing like a stereotype impression of indigenous people as seen by film, but I still feel like feels and Boba Fett has a lot of, for some reason, a lot of like, I can't believe it's not racism. There we go. Oh,
Good one.
I mean,
That's
it's
good.
probably a good title for the episode, but mostly I'm just like, that's a term I'm going to use in life from now on. I like that a lot.
Yeah, good one.
Read an email.
Oh, you want me to do it? Okay.
Punk. Punk.
There we go. Azure Talon.
I was telling somebody about Ash Talent the other day. So I was talking
Yeah.
about the podcast, and I was like, and there's various people I'm like, and I have an enemy on there. Like, really? Like, yeah, there's one guy who listens, and I love to give him shit. And then he pissed me off enough I gave him cancer. It's just like, what? And so then I had to tell the whole story. And the funny thing is, if you say, this guy listened to my podcast and he pissed me off enough that I gave him cancer, that's bizarre. Like, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Once the
Yeah.
story is explained, it doesn't make a lot more sense.
No.
It makes some more sense, but not a lot more sense. But luckily, the story has a very happy ending, so I tell it often because of that. Like, if Andrew Town was dead, I probably would not tell the story about how I gave him cancer very often, just at like exclusive parties. But this way is much better. All right,
I
what
will-
does Andrew Town have to
I
say?
will read Azure Talon's email and I will read the suggested responses that Google thinks we should send back. Here we go.
Nice. Yes, please. Yes, please. I love those. Google. Google either sends insane ones or they send ones that are dead on, and somehow that makes me mad.
Yeah.
I'm like, Google, you don't get to decide. I mean, that is exactly what I'm going to say, but how presumptuous of you.
So he starts, hi diddly ho dilly hat o Renos. I think I read that right.
I would assume it is hi diddly ho diddly hat arena.
No, he didn't spell it like that. Just
As Town
dilly.
famously doesn't know how to spell.
Anyway. Oh, you mean like is instead of US?
Oh my God, we didn't talk about that. Oh my God, we didn't talk about that. So,
Oh, we're gonna do that.
keen-eyed
Okay.
observers may remember. Was it just last week? Last week,
Yeah.
we had a question from Craig, talked about the is political situation.
Yeah.
Capital I, capital S. We went so far as to look it up, could not figure it out, theorized a bunch of things, made up a bunch of jokes, in general, crapped on Craig. And then late that night, I get a text, no contact, we weren't talking.
No.
I get a text from William that just says, maybe he meant US.
US political system. Yeah.
And I'm looking at the phone, and the U and the I are right next to each other. And
Right
I'm like,
next to each other.
we are the biggest fucking idiots. And here's the problem. It's not a fluke. Because I cannot remember the specifics, but I know for a fact that this exact series of events has happened to us at least once before, and I think twice, where like we were very confused in an episode, and then much later that night, one of us texted the other, and we were like, "Oh shit, how did we miss that?"
Yeah.
Like this is our jam. Weirdly, this is the most magical talking hat podcast thing there is. This is our unique hook. Is we completely don't get what you're saying, and then hours later one of us does, and we feel like dumbasses.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't record that part, so it's probably not great entertainment. But yes, so apologies to Craig. I would explain to you why we missed it, but I genuinely don't know how, why.
I mean, in retrospect, I don't either. It's kind of obvious.
Although what would be the best joke on this is if then you went to the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com, and told us that's not true. It was actually IS, and then
and I meant this.
full circle, and I'd hang myself. I don't know. So yeah, we fucked that up. So hopefully Azure Talon doesn't cause us trouble.
All right. So he says,
hi diddly neighborino.
Yeah. Well, I bought some Bomba socks.
Oh,
Seems the most effective way to advertise to me is McElroy. Wow.
Also,
why?
does my laugh sound like Travis right now? That's a little scary.
I don't know. What's
Sorry, keep going. I will explain.
okay. Do you buy things advertised on podcasts fulfilled by internet only boutique style businesses? I've bought from Quip, Me Undies, Dollar Shave Club, and honestly, I've never been too disappointed. That's interesting. Some have been more expensive than rational options, but the quality seems to be proportional. Do I still need to sign these? I forget. Azure Talon.
Always.
And then Google says we could answer yes.
I mean,
all of that, just say yes
Mm.
to sign these, I guess. And, or we could say, I will look into this and get back to you.
Well, we're definitely not doing the second one. So I guess, yes.
And then the
Thank you.
last one is, no, you don't. As I guess, no, you don't need to sign these.
No, you don't.
Those are the three. Those are the three.
I find this hilarious because I have been listening to a lot of McElroy. I'm listening to my brother and me, but I'm also going through the back catalog of the Adventure Zone. So I listen to a lot of McElroy right now. And I genuinely have been seriously thinking about purchasing Bombas socks because of the McElroy brothers.
They pitch these. This is one of their...
tons of people do. It's one of those companies. Stamps.com, Ridge Wallets, the ones he said. But yeah, Bombas socks is one that they've been doing. Brooklyn and Stitch Fix, those kind of things. And they're apparently really comfy socks, and there's a variety of different kinds you can get in terms of height. But also, for every pair you buy, they give a pair to people in need, and so that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
too.
I guess I have heard
really
of them.
good socks.
Yeah, I have.
So I find that hilarious that Azrael, I don't know why I find it hilarious. I'm always chilled to my core when I find out Azrael and I have something in common, but I did find that really funny. I have done this once. We used to watch Nerdy Crafter videos. I think it was Nerdy Crafter on YouTube. And she at one point had Magic Spoon as a sponsor. And I actually used the code and I tried Magic Spoon. I've done Magic Spoon a few times since. I think I've talked about Magic Spoon on the podcast. It's the cereal that tastes like kid cereal, but is fucking super high protein and low sugar and all that jazz. But that being said, my wife purchased a lot of MeUndies. I don't even know how she found out. I usually see their ads on Facebook. She's not on Facebook, but something happened and she got into MeUndies and she done that. I also have a lot of friends and family members who have done Stitch Fix. And honestly, if I was a smaller size and wore pants, I would probably do Stitch Fix. There are others I have thought about. I have thought about a Ridge Wallet, and like I said, I thought about Bombas socks. I think it's a good technique. Had things been different, our whole deal might have been handled by Squarespace. I'm glad it wasn't, because we don't really need a website design. I just need web hosting, and I don't want to spend that much. But
it's funny. I watched a show recently about advertising, the history of advertising, which I'm incredibly interested in.
Or you just watched a commercial because you were fooled.
No, and it's a really good show, and I was reminded in the show. I mean, this is something we all know, but I was reminded in the show about how when advertising was first part of mass media, it was like during live TV, right? Like the people the people playing the characters would stop and they'd talk about a product. And then they got away from that for specific reasons that related to how the media worked. And also, here's something I hadn't really thought about, was that when in radio, it was popular for a company to sponsor an entire radio show. And they tried to do that with TV for a while, but it was so much more expensive to do that for TV. That's how you kind of got this thing where there were ads in between things and you didn't have someone hosting a whole show. But anyway, all of these interesting economic and technological reasons for how advertising evolved in television to sort of get away from ads being in the show itself. And now here we are back to people doing ads in the middle of their show. I think that, and cool.
Getting awards for it.
Awards?
Yeah, I don't think it's the streamies. There's a particularly, I think it maybe iHeartRadio is it, but there's an award thing for podcasts, basically.
Okay.
And one of the categories is best ad read.
Really? Wow, interesting.
Because when you do these ads, they give you talking points and they'll say, like, here are things to focus on. And some sections they'll be like, you have to say this word for word, things like that. but otherwise you can sort of freeform it. And a lot of places and people and stuff have figured out if you make it funny and or interesting, people won't skip it. And so McElroy Brothers do this a lot, and McElroy Brothers were actually nominated for this particular thing. They lost to a podcast called Smartless that is Jason Bateman, Will Ferrell, and Will Arnett just do a podcast. I don't even know what it's about, but yeah,
wow,
apparently it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, how could you beat that?
And they ended up getting best ad copy. But yeah, there's a lot of these. Ryan George, who does all the pitch meetings and stuff, his videos, I think this is a bad idea. He puts the ad at the end, and so I just stop watching when we get to the ad.
I mean,
but he does make them amusing occasionally. Like I have left it on.
Yeah, the Astronaut, I think, is
the Astronaut. Yes, exactly.
It's pretty funny. I like to watch them.
The McElroy Brothers, and this may be part of why I'm more interested lately. They talk about how they actually use these things, and unlike a lot of other things, I actually believe them. They do use these things. But they'll get fun with it, and they'll screw around, and sometimes they'll promise things that aren't true, and then one of them will have to be like, there's no way that's gonna be. We're gonna lose them as a sponsor if you do that, and they just like fuck around. And so yeah, it's become a performative thing within the shows. But I used to think that was so. Infomercials. Remember infomercials?
Well, yeah, they were covered in this show.
There you go.
Yeah.
I used to watch a lot of infomercials because we didn't have cable and I needed something to be on the TV. So if there weren't sitcoms available or pro wrestling, I was stuck with infomercials. And sometimes I was fooled and didn't realize it was an infomercial. But I frequently got tempted to purchase the things, and only have a couple of times and have always regretted it. But I frequently got tempted, and what I finally had to sort of tell myself is, if it's a good enough product, it's eventually going to be available in stores. I have discovered there are exceptions to this, but by and large, if this is really the revolutionary thing it seems to be, I'll be able to buy it in the store or some way that's not an infomercial. And I used to feel similarly about podcast ads. I think partially because it's all the same companies. Every podcast you listen to that has ads is doing the same companies. And I'm like, that's weird. So in my head, it was always like, yeah, if this product is really good, eventually I'll see actual commercials or see it in a store rather than this. But nowadays I'm like, no, I think they're hitting their target market. And I think it works pretty well. So I try and give it a little more credit nowadays, but I don't buy a lot from it. I also don't buy a lot that I see in just regular commercials either. Speaking of, have you seen the trailer for Prey? It's a new movie coming out called Prey.
Prey, I take it.
Yes. There are 3 things to know about it.
Okay.
2 of them are why I'm not going to see it.
Oh.
And one of them is why I almost thought I might see it. 1, it is clearly set in a pre-colonial North America situation and deals with a native population. And again, I'm like, fucking stop it. Again, we're doing the Noble Savage bullshit. I'm like, I don't want to see your take on how, because spoilers, it's a sci-fi movie. And I'm like, leave the fucking Indians alone. Like, stop doing this. And I'm tired of that in general. If there's a native tribe situation, there better be a damn good reason for it. And this one just seems like, no, it just sort of fits with the tone and whatever. The second reason, it's a fucking Predator movie.
Hmm.
And you don't know that for most of the trailer. And if you aren't familiar with Predator, you might not know.
Hmm.
But there's a certain point in the movie, and somebody gets the 3 dots like laser sight on them. And even later, you hear the weird clicking noise that the predators make. And I'm just like, why are we making more Predator? Like, this is like Terminator movies. What the fuck are you doing? The one thing I do like is the main protagonist appears to be. Did you ever watch Legion? There was a character named Carrie who was actually 2 characters. There was an old gentleman, and then inside him was this young woman.
Hmm. Yeah. I can remember that.
And they had been the same age, but she only ages when she's outside, and she usually wasn't outside. So by the point in the series, she seems like late teens, and he's like middle-aged.
Okay.
It's her.
Oh.
She's the main character, and I'm like, I like her, and I would like to see what she does with this. But I was like, really thrown. So yeah, now we're doing pre-colonial predators fight the Indians, the Native Americans. That's the thing in my head now. It's not a PC thing. If you're talking about the past, then it becomes Indians, because that's what we used to call them, Indians, which I'm thinking about now, and I'm like, that doesn't seem like a good way to phrase that, so I won't do that. So yeah, I'm not gonna watch that, but the trailer was very surprising.
Hmm.
I don't know why we make more Predator movies or Terminator
either.
movies or Book of Boba Fett. I want a new original shit. You watch the new Stranger Things?
Oh yeah. Why didn't I bring that up? I don't know.
How is it?
Well, you and I don't know if this is still true about us, but when it first started, we both felt like it was a watchable thing, but that we were sort of outside of the phenomena because we weren't. The nostalgia wasn't working on us, and a lot of other things weren't working on us, but it was still a watchable thing.
I would
Is
say
that's
that is fair.
okay? And that's still what it is. I would say this season seems like it's like better than the previous one. So I mean, yeah, we like watching it. I mean, I think I mean, now all the kids have sort of aged out, they're all like 19
Well,
and 20 and everything.
There's some assumption, although I don't think it's been officially announced, that this will be the end, because the kids are too old, and also they're too famous and they go do other shit now.
Yeah, I mean,
So unless you're gonna do a like Stranger Things The Next Generation or something.
I mean, if they were all playing seniors in high school, 18-year-olds, but they're playing freshmen, and it's like, nope, doesn't work.
Yeah.
Does not work at all. And yeah, so but it's I mean, I like it. I think the general plot and stuff this season is kind of interesting. I mean, each new season, it just is kind of a very often boring and predictable way to up the stakes or whatever. But I think this is a little more interesting than it has been. So I've been kind of liking it. But you're
I'm not gonna watch it. I'm not gonna watch it. We did feel the same in the first season. It was watchable, but we weren't as into it. But I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I have grown increasingly frustrated with every season, and so I'm finally cutting ties. A very similar thing is happening, resulting in me definitely not going to watch season 3 of Umbrella Academy. Same deal. I'm like, no, fool me too many times. However, I did learn something.
What's that?
Which made Stranger Things suddenly more interesting. Not enough to watch it, and I feel you might find this very interesting. Stranger Things, the whole show, is based, and I don't mean bears a resemblance or has, I mean, the creators have actually straight up said this and gone into detail. The entire show, down to fairly small details, is based on an actual real life conspiracy theory called the Montauk Conspiracy.
I mean, I think I know about the Montauk Conspiracy.
It's sort of it's sort of two conspiracies built together. It's the Philadelphia experiment and something else that like comes together. I don't know, but like down to weird details where like third season they find gold bars in the Russian bunker or whatever. Like that's a real part of the whole thing. And the dimensional, like it's all actually a conspiracy theory that people really believe. And I'm like,
well, the Montauk, the Montauk conspiracy or
is MK Ultra is the other one. It's a combination of Philadelphia experiment and MK Ultra, which is, while still kind of a conspiracy theory, actually happened.
The Montauk thing came up with Lost theorists a lot. Lost people who watched Lost and talked about it online and stuff would bring that up many times.
And I'm less interested when people are like, "Oh, look at these similarities," but apparently this one, they straight up have been like, "Yeah, no, that's our show Bible is essentially that conspiracy theory."
I wonder why I didn't notice that.
Um,
Probably because it resembles so many other things. I mean,
yeah, I mean, because you were too busy being like, "No, it's fucking Goonies and Stand By Me."
Yeah, I mean, it's just a ripoff of.
And by third season, Footloose, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't really. You don't really have to subscribe. I mean, I don't know anybody who's got theories about Stranger Things. I mean, everyone thinks
and
they
that's.
know.
I think that's part of my deal, because I feel like I should have been into it, but other than the nostalgia factor, the bare bones plot of Stranger Things is not super interesting to me.
Yeah.
Each season, I kind of don't care how it ends. And I should. Alternate dimension, cosmic horror shit like this. I normally love that shit, but
right, but it wasn't really very well done. I think this season.
I don't want to be that mean, even though I really don't like the show. It wasn't the focus, I think, of the show, or isn't the focus. I guess it's still happening.
I think this season they're doing that part better, in my opinion. And I think that's why I'm enjoying it, is because.
God damn it! If you talk me into watching this season, I'm going to be so pissed off.
Also, I haven't really liked. What's her name? The mom.
Millie Bobby Brown. Oh, Winona Ryder.
Yeah, I haven't really liked her in any season, but I kind of like her in this season for some reason, and I don't know why.
See, I don't know that I like the character, but I've been very impressed with the performance of her in the whole thing, because it's that fine line of feeling like you're losing your mind. Like that's a difficult role to play. People can play sane and people can play insane, although usually to comic effect. But that whole thing where you're questioning yourself or you're starting to lose your grip, I think that is a hard thing to do. That being said, I also frequently was like, I don't know why that character's here. I don't give a shit. And his kids, I fucking hate kids. They psychologically abuse me.
Millie Bobby Brown in particular looks too old for the role. I don't know why she does.
I think in the last year or two, puberty has ratcheted up on Millie Bobby Brown. She suddenly looks like a grown-up.
She does to me for some reason.
Yeah. And she didn't. She had the whole youthful thing. Well, I've heard the guy who plays Will is just straight up an adult now and like 8 feet tall or whatever the fuck.
I still think if they were going to make movies for the New Hope era of Star Wars, that Millie Bobby Brown could play Leia and that Will kid could play Luke, and it would be awesome.
I don't want you to put that shit out in the world. It has nothing to do with the casting. I'm just going to be really pissed if they do more New Hope era Star Wars.
And the thing is, Millie Bobby Brown is the right age for that. What's his name? The Solo guy to play Han Solo. They're the right age. Just difference from one another is Carrie Fisher and.
Yeah. However, I think that whole movie is viewed as a failure. So
it is, but that's too bad. I mean, when I think of him continuing to play Han and Glover continuing to play Lando, and then those two kids playing Leia, and I mean, it's like, this would really work if anyone would like new stories in the New Hope era with Luke and Leia and all those people that never, or not movies, like a streaming show. Oh my gosh, that would be so cool. But
And Finn Wolfhard as Chewbacca. If he lets that hair grow out, I think it'll just cover it. That's the funny thing, though. Finn Wolfhard still looks as young as he did. He just has longer limbs now. And I think that's important because I think once Finn Wolfhard stops looking like a kid, his career is over.
You think so?
He's just the kid. He just gets stuck in things as like a curly haired waif.
Yeah, lanky.
Yeah.
Awkward.
Do you remember the pitch meeting for Ghostbusters Afterlife? And they're like, put that Finn Wolfhard kid in there. It's like, why? We don't need another kid. People love him. Put him in there. All right, I guess he'll be her brother. I don't. Everybody loves that Finn Wolfhard kid.
That's funny.
Shit, the fan's on again. I can't fake a thing like that. I mean, I think that's it. I think Edgertown, seriously, get on the blog and tell me how the Bombas socks are. Because I will not purchase a product because of charity. Because as much as that is helpful, what's more helpful is to donate the money I was going to spend on the fucking product to charity. But if is also awesome socks. Awesome socks. That sounds like a term. Another good episode. What shit? I lost. What is? Oh, no. What is the title of this episode?
You expect me to remember?
Yeah. Fuck. It was good.
It was
good.
Good.
Long. It was good.
Well, I mean, when this is done, you can watch it
up later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, though. I've done it before, but it's a pain in the ass, especially because I don't know where in the episode it is. So I'm just hunting and pecking because I'm not going to sit there for an hour. Watch us. Anyway. Yeah, so tell us how the Bombas socks are. This episode was not sponsored by Bombas socks. If Bombas socks wants to, clearly we have a receptive audience. Go to the blog and tell us your things that are strange. And where do you fall with your Boba Fett headcanon? What's Boba Fett like for you? And did you see Oculus? And if you listen to this podcast, there is a good chance you listen to other podcasts. There is a good chance those podcasts are successful enough to have ads. Do you ever purchase any of the things? Are you ever tempted to purchase any of the things? Check it out. Think about it. Won't you? All right, that's it. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe and comment, because apparently that will make people pay attention, and I want attention. Buy my book. It's called Odd Wings, ODDWINGS. Go to smashwords.com. Get that book. It costs $3. What are you waiting for? Buy Williams books. They're probably buy all of Williams stuff. It's on aethertheater.com. The worst SEO in the history of anything, because nobody knows how to spell Aether.
With an A.
And several other letters.
Well, it's like ether. Most people spell it with an E-T-H-E-R.
Yeah,
but it's just got an A.
A lot of us aren't old 19th century drug addicts like you, so we don't all know how to spell ether. So go to laudanumtheater.com, morphinetheater.com, aethertheater.com, and buy his books. They're complete, so that's good. He's got a good web comic there. He has some music about fish. And he has some music. I don't know. That was back when he used to wear that cowboy hat all the time. and the trench
Yep.
coat.
Yep.
So yeah, get into our stuff. You're listening to this. I don't want you to think too hard about why you're listening to this or watching this, but I do want you to think, if I'm consuming this voluntarily, perhaps I would choose to voluntarily consume other things by these two folks.
Yeah, maybe.
And then do it. But mostly listen again next week, because we're gonna keep this shit going until the wheels have fallen off and we refuse to stop. And you're just gonna have to deal with our realness.